If asking for space, even just a little breathing room, brings up guilt, anxiety, or second guessing, you're not alone. For highly sensitive people, saying, I need time, or uh, anything that is taking a little bit of space can almost feel like you're saying, I'm abandoning you. Someone once shared a moment that perfectly captured the struggle of asking for space as a highly sensitive person. She was at her niece's birthday party with balloons, loud music, a crowded room full of excited kids and chattering adults. And halfway through, she started to feel overwhelmed. Her heart was racing, her body was tense, her smile was starting to feel more like a mask. And she told me, I knew I needed 5 minutes outside, just 5 minutes of quiet. But she didn't go. She stayed in the kitchen, holding a half-full glass of lemonade and pretending to be engaged in small talk. She was afraid, basically, that someone would notice her stepping away, and afraid her sister would think she was being rude or she didn't care. And under all of that was that kind of voice that kicks in saying, don't make things awkward, just get through it, be good. And she ended up staying inside and then spent the rest of the afternoon feeling distant, somewhat dissociated and disconnected from everyone. But the thing is, her hesitation wasn't actually a weakness. It wasn't about being indecisive or flaky or selfish. It was coming from a very tender place, her deep longing to stay connected. And that's a natural part of all human beings. And as highly sensitive people, we are especially connected to that instinct, that tendency to want to be connected with people. So her sensitivity was not the problem. The problem was the story that taking up space meant she was breaking connection, or that she was going to be causing problems, or that people wouldn't like it. The thing is, highly sensitive people are wired to notice other people's needs, to sense their discomfort, to pay attention to the emotions they may be having. We pay attention to these things, and for good reason. It allows us not only to have deep connections with people, but also to be supportive in ways that are unique to being a highly sensitive person. So the challenge comes when you're doing inner work, or when life just puts it in your face, that you have to figure out what to do. And you may feel like life is pushing you to go against your own nature. And I say life, and I even put inner work in that category, because inner work always challenges what we're thinking and believing. It gets us to push the envelope a little bit. And you may feel like you're pushing up against your own nature, because if your own nature is to go for deep connection, then okay, where's the balance point in that? Tough love likes to say, stand up for yourself, just say no, take a break, be smart, take care of yourself. These all sound very wise and good and intelligent, and I can agree with them 99% of the time, except in that moment when I'm actually in the situation and I'm aware of everyone's feelings, everyone's thoughts, everyone's potential reactions. And yes, some of that can be fear-based, but some of that is just also being a caring person, being aware of others, and being intelligent. Why would I do something that is going to cause bigger problems if I do it? So this is what we wrestle with as highly sensitive people. And it kind of comes to the distinction between our nature and what's layered on top of our nature, which is our stresses, or our conditioning, our attachments. And I love to push the boundaries on my attachments. I love to question my thoughts and slip out of what I've been believing my whole life. I love to question my conditioning and work with that, challenge it. But there's also my nature, which I don't want to challenge too much because that's who I am. Part of loving what is accepting who I am, and part of who I am is sensitive. So highly sensitive people by nature they want harmony. I think most everyone wants harmony. But highly sensitive people are super attuned to that. We want harmony, we like attunement, we like a concord, we like a easy, peaceful experience. And that is in itself is not a bad thing. And so I think it's really important when doing self-work or like inner work to challenge ourselves, but also pay attention inside. Where is the actual balance point? Because it may not be flipping to the other side and becoming like super hardcore tough, which most highly sensitive people couldn't do anyway. So it's about understanding ourselves and knowing that we're probably going to always be gentle. We're probably always going to put ourselves a little bit second, and we do that for good reason, and it's not a bad thing, and it doesn't even have to change. It's just a matter of degree. Where do we compromise one way, and where do we need to just insert a little bit more of taking care of ourselves so that we can have more to give? And that's one of my favorite ways to turn this around, is to see that when I take 5 minutes, when I take a little time to balance, to take care of myself, when I pursue what I'm interested in, as well as other people pursuing what they are interested in, some new energy comes up inside of me. And when that energy is there, I have more to give to others. I can actually be more understanding, more helpful, and that is that's like the balance. Taking care of myself is the basis of taking care of others. And so it's not that I have to give up being there for others, being aware of others, being sensitive to others, or wanting harmony. No, it's just inserting a little bit more of my true self instead of going on a fake version of peace where I'm like, oh, everything's fine, but I'm actually not happy on the inside. And then, yeah, I have peace on the outside, but at the cost of peace on the inside. So our nature's not going to change. We're sensitive, we'll continue to be sensitive. If we're stressed and sensitive, that's another layer on top of it. But if you remove the stress, you're left with just plain sensitive. And that is a beautiful thing. So I like to look for where my thinking has gotten exaggerated, where my thinking has gotten into the other person's business. Beyond just being sensitive to them, where am I becoming attached to them? Where am I trying to influence them? Or where am I dependent on them to be happy myself? If I can identify those, that's not my nature. That has nothing to do with being an HSP. That has to do with my conditioning, with my thoughts, with my beliefs, what the stories that I put up on top of the situation. And those can be very deeply ingrained, but they also respond beautifully to self-inquiry. What I love about self-inquiry is that it is a chance for us to ask ourselves what feels right for us. And if you really follow the instructions in that, you will not be confused between your own nature, which is sensitive, kind, generous, and your stress, which is stressed. You will feel the difference. And so paying attention to that will allow you to navigate and know where, okay, I can feel confident doing what feels right for me without getting confused. In other words, there are times when what feels right to me is to give up something that I want and be there for someone. Maybe I want to do that more. But there are other times where I have to find that balance and realize that that's actually not productive at all. So the bottom line is I like to reframe this hesitation to take care of myself as something that's not a bad thing. It's not a weakness. It's not something that I have to overcome. It's coming from a good place. Being kind to others is not a bad thing, but the mind can co-opt this behavior and use it to hide a little bit and to stay safe from judgments of others and to protect itself from vulnerability or being exposed. And while that can be okay, it also starts getting into a stressful place. And so I just like to separate these two. What is my nature? What is the stress that interferes on top of it? And I like to question the heck out of my stress and the thoughts that I'm believing, but I like to accept with full heart who I am and allow myself to be what I am. And what if your struggle to take up space is just a sign of how deeply you value connection? I mean, what a sweet thing. And what if that value doesn't have to disappear when you step back and take care of yourself? I believe there's always a way to have both. It may not be perfectly both, but there's always a way to find that balance where I am able to be kind, considerate, and loving to others, but I'm also able to be kind, considerate, and loving to myself.